Remember when you were a kid and you got your first bicycle? Do you remember where you rode it? Or the color? Or the style? Even more, do you remember that feeling? The wind in your hair, the sense of freedom and adventure, your newfound independence? Hi, I'm Jenn, the president and CEO of PeopleForBikes. And on behalf of our Colorado-based nonprofit, thank you for inviting PeopleForBikes to the American Climate Leadership Summit to talk about the role that active transportation, and specifically bicycling, can play in climate action. A special thank you to Eco-America's Megan Spicer and Bob Perkowitz for hosting this excellent event and inviting me to speak. Now, the first bike that I truly fell in love with was a classic blue Huffy 10-speed. I was so proud of that bike. I rode it everywhere. And block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, I gained confidence. Later in high school, I traded it in for a white, giant mountain bike. This time, I started exploring old gravel roads that linked my small Midwestern town to nearby communities. I worked through my problems with hours of alone time on my bike. I got creative, I dug deep, and I dreamed big. I fell in love with a bike at a young age, and I've been lucky to turn my favorite activity into my career and work with many talented, passionate bike people. Our mission at PeopleForBikes is to get more people on bikes more often and make every bike ride better for everyone. We believe in the power of the bike to bring people together, to unite communities, and to change the world. Transportation is the largest source of carbon emissions in the United States, making up 28% of overall emissions, and most of that comes from passenger vehicles. One simple, low-cost solution is right before our eyes: the bicycle. It's an answer to congestion, mobility, sustainability, equity, public health issues, all in one. And as a bonus, bikes are fun. At PeopleForBikes, we work to ensure the bicycle and active transportation are important components of the broader action plan to combat climate change. Our goal is that when policymakers think about climate action, they think of the bike. When you think about climate action, you think of the bike. In our short time together, I'll cover ways PeopleForBikes is working with all levels of government to make sure bikes are included in climate action, what cities around the U.S. are doing to prioritize active transportation, how electric bicycles are leading the charge, and ways you can be part of the solution. Here we go. Now, we know the bicycle isn't a silver bullet against climate change and doesn't have some of the stronger material gains as other solutions. But there are few more immediate ways to reduce your carbon footprint than leaving your car at home and going by bike. We also know that biking every day can be unrealistic for many people. So let's start small and build from there. Just one short errand or trip. Maybe it's to meet friends nearby, take the kids to the park, or for a quick trip to the grocery store for a last-minute ingredient. If the bike isn't in your budget right now, there are some great bike share systems around the country, most of them electric. Have a flat tire or your bike is in storage gathering cobwebs? Your local bike shop would be happy to get it tuned up and road ready. A recent study from Portland State University gives us a pretty attainable goal to shoot for. It showed that a 15% increase in electric bicycle mode share, or riding an electric bike instead of a car, could lead to a 12% decrease in transportation-related carbon emissions. That's significant. We don't need everyone to bike, we just need 15%. When about half of car trips taken are 3 miles or less, that goal might be easier than you think. That's just a 15-minute bike ride at a very casual pace. And with an electric bicycle, it's even quicker. But we'll get to that more in a minute. And there's some more great news here. In the last year, Americans have been biking and biking in droves. When COVID-19 stay-at-home orders started last March, Americans dusted off their bikes, got out of the house, and started riding. Some for mental and physical health, others for a way to safely recreate with their families. Many essential workers felt safer commuting by bike than taking public transportation. In 2020, 10% of American adults rode a bike for the first time in a year or more, or the first time ever. 12% bought a bike, and another 13% said they are planning to buy a bike within the next year. For kids, bicycling went from the number 16 sport to the number 3 activity behind football and flag football. By introducing kids to bikes at a young age, we can help them form lifelong, healthy habits. And more good news on the city front. In the last year, more than 200 U.S. cities made changes to their streets to accommodate increased bicycling and walking. They opened streets, built pop-up protected bike lanes, and lowered speed limits, giving their citizens room to move and enjoy their communities. Numerous local advocacy groups are working to make these changes permanent and more. A big part of PeopleForBikes' work is with local governments, helping them improve their bike infrastructure. Because the fact is, if you don't have a safe route from where you live to where you want to go, you're probably not going to ride a bicycle. We work with cities to help them build out complete, connected mobility networks so that all people, no matter if you walk, bike, take a scooter or a car, or ride transit, you have a safe and comfortable option to move around your community. Thankfully, bikes are a cheap date. Bike infrastructure, like bike lanes, paths, and trails, cost a fraction of most major road infrastructure improvements and are often much quicker to build. PeopleForBikes also works with several national organizations in the rapidly expanding shared micromobility space. We work with community-based organizations and operators to improve access to bike and scooter share in low-income and historically marginalized neighborhoods to help provide more equitable transportation options. If we're going to talk about electric vehicles and electric buses in our national conversation around climate, we should also talk about electric bicycles. Electric bikes make active transportation a real option for more people. Their popularity has skyrocketed, doubling last year in sales. 30 state legislatures have made their states more e-bike friendly, and about a dozen local governments and Congress are considering purchase incentives to underwrite the cost of an electric bicycle. We're continually inspired by the effective measures European nations are piloting to support electric bikes. France is finalizing their Cash for Clunkers program that would offer citizens up to 2,500 euros for an electric bike when trading in their car. Belgium, Germany, and Austria lead the way in employer-based tax incentives for bike leasing. From bike repair vouchers in France and Italy to doctor prescriptions to ride your bike in the UK, other countries are gaining critical insights on how to make bicycling more affordable and more attractive across diverse populations. The bike industry is thinking about our climate footprint as well, and like any manufacturing, we have an impact. But what is the break-even point? What is the point where riding a bike in place of driving a conventional car results in a net reduction of CO2 emissions? Because we are bike and climate geeks, let's unpack how many miles you need to pedal to reach that net positive point, accounting for manufacturing and even your personal CO2 emissions while riding. Some friends of ours reviewed several existing studies looking at the life cycle analysis of a bicycle, a lithium battery, and the reduced CO2 emissions from bicycling. For a standard bike, you only need to ride 319 miles over the course of its lifetime. For an electric bike, you need to ride 508 miles. It is amazing how fast these miles add up. And with an electric bike, the miles go even faster. Of course, more research needs to be done, but you get the idea. It doesn't take long to be helping the planet on two wheels. Remember when I said earlier about a 15% increase in the people that go by electric bike? Cities would see a 12% decrease in their communities' transportation CO2 emissions. That's real, and that means you. My ask, or call to action, if you will, is this. One day a week, go by bike instead of driving. That's it. About 15% of your week on two wheels. If that's too much of a stretch, just start with one trip and see how it goes. I think you'll be surprised by how this one simple action can not only make a difference in your carbon footprint, but your life. A few months from now, it might be 2 days a week or more. Who knows? One day by bike every week, and you're well on your way to showing the world what is possible when people believe in the power of active transportation and the bicycle. Thank you.